Hello Bitzbox, this is Craig from Bitzbox.co.uk here with another painting video for you. And in this one, I'm painting my Stormcast Eternals in a sort of gritty, Blanjitsu-esque sort of style, Grimdark style. And these are still the Hallowed Knights, I do already have some, but they're just painted in a more sort of clean fashion. But with the release of Dominion, I thought I'd try something different with these new Stormcast. And yeah, I changed up the theme as well with a few conversions. I 3D printed a few bits, and I'll put links down below to where I got the STLs from for them. So I've changed the heads and also the shields on these, and I've also changed the ends of the spears just with Empire Greatswords swords. So they look quite cool and they're quite different. And yeah, if you want to see other stuff I've done for this army, there is a link in the description down below to our Instagram. And yeah, I'm really enjoying these, and I can't wait to show you the video. So yeah, I hope you guys will enjoy. So let's just hit the desk. So here I have one of the Stormcast I'm going to be working on. You'll notice that I've replaced the head and the shield, just to suit the aesthetic for the army that I'm going on, which will be painted in a grim, dark style. Also changed the end of the spear, which is a little bit wobbly, well, not wobbly, but a bit bent, so I'll have to try and sort that out at some point, but I'm not too fussed about that at the moment. You'll notice I have some cracked paint on there, so this is done beforehand with some Martian Iron Earth. Obviously the colour doesn't matter because it's going to be primed, but this is one of the steps that I'll do before priming, and there's another step that I'm going to do right now. So usually I'd put some Typhus Corrosion on, has a little bit more texture, but I don't have any of that, so what I'm going to do is take some Sterling Mud and then just dilute it down just with some water. So I'll chuck it in here. Got a little bit on the old brush there. Not trying to snatch the camera, and just mix in with water. Probably want a little bit more Sterling Mud so you get this nice sort of texture. Essentially Typhus Corrosion is very similar to just having a bit of texture paint just sort of thin down a little bit, and then I'm going to apply that to some random areas to give us a bit more texture in places. So this will really help the sort of grimdark effect, because it'll all be sort of rusty and textured a little bit, but subtly. You don't want to just pile it on. Well, maybe you do. Maybe that's what you want to go for, but in my case, I don't want to just pile it on. I just want to have it diluted and just have little bits of texture here and there. Okay, so the model has been primed in Chaos Black, and you can see there's some areas where I didn't really sit too well on the crackle paint, but that doesn't really matter because I'm going to go over it all now with some Iron Warriors, nice dark silver colour, and I've got an old makeup brush here, and instead of just brushing it on, I'm just going to sort of stipple it on. So I've wiped a little bit off, not quite dry brushing standard, but enough, and this will build up a little bit of a texture as well, rather than just having a smooth base coat. So I'm just going to go over the majority of the armour for this guy. Now I'll go over a shield as well. Next up, I'm going to do exactly the same thing again, this time with lead Belcher. I'm going to focus more on the higher points. So you can think of it almost like a Zenithal highlight. I'm not being neat, obviously, with the size of this brush, but you may wish to use a smaller brush if you want to be neater about it. I'm not really too fussed. I'll try not to knock the camera. And I've removed a little bit more paint than last time as well. So I have the camera in a really awkward place. I keep knocking it. I need a bit more of a better setup for this. It's not great when I've got these big old brushes anyway. But yeah, you can see now we're building up some highlights there quite nicely. And we'll be adding some more highlights at a later stage. So now I'm going to go on to the gold areas. I'm going to take some Runelord Brass. So I really like using this, especially for this more sort of Grimdark. I always try and avoid like the shiny gold, always go for more of a brass or a bronze. I'm just going to paint all the trim. A little lightning bolt as well. There'll be quite a lot on the shield. So yeah, there's quite a bit, so I'm going to work my way around these areas and then I'll be back. Okay, so next I'm going to take some Iron Hands steel. This is going to be for the sort of skirt area. I don't know the correct term for this, so I apologise. I'm sure many of you do. If you want to as well, you can also take some of this and add some additional highlights. Now we're doing some more highlights later on anyway, but a few extras certainly won't hurt. Don't worry if there's not a good deal of blending or anything. I'm not too worried about anything like that at the moment, but seeing some high points and some edges. So next up, I'm going to take some Catachan flesh. I just fill up the belts and straps. He's got some straps on his wrists and around the shield, and a bit hard to get to on this one, but try my best. I think there's a snap fit, so I could probably take it off. I don't think I glued it, but there's also a little bit on here, but obviously if you're using the original miniatures and not conversions, then you won't have that little bit there. And I will sort out straightening that up at some point as well, excuse me. Also, I will use that Iron Hand steel actually. I'll come back in with that and paint the blade. I forgot about that. So yeah, I'll just finish up with brown and do that. Next up, I'm going to take some Screamer Pink. This is for all the weapon handles. Not the most Grimdark of choices, but as you could probably guess, we'll be putting a wash on all of this soon to darken it all down. I just like using this colour for like sword handles and spear handles and stuff. Ever since GW sort of started using it, and when they first brought out Stormcast, I've always sort of quite liked it, so that's what I'm going to do. And there's like a little sword here as well, so yeah, I'll get them done. Okay, so now we're going to wash all of that with Agrax Earthshade. So if you really want a grimy look, you could use an oil wash, but I'm keeping this one as simple as possible, just for using Agrax. And yeah, I'm going to put it on every colour, even the Screamer Pink. See how that darkens it down really nicely, and it gives us sort of very browny tint to the armour. Now I'm not diluting it, but I am going to push it around the mini as much as I can, and then that way I have a nice even coverage without too much of it pooling, and then it doesn't really just turn the whole thing like a muddy brown either. We still have a lot of that silver poking through, but this will really help bring out the details as well, as you can see on the shield. I'm sure many of you are well aware of how a shade wash works. So yeah, I'll give that plenty of time to dry. And be back for the next step. So next up, I'm going to take this Army Painter War Paint Night Scales from their Metallics line. This is a really dark blue metallic, which I really like. I'm actually borrowing this off Wayne, who's let me try out the Army Painter metallics, and I must say I'm quite enjoying them. There's some really nice metallic colours. And yeah, I'm going to paint the shoulder pads and the shield with this. Oh, excuse me, and I apologise, my chair's a little bit squeaky. You can see it's a lovely dark blue metallic. Now I'm using a metallic for the blue is just a personal choice. You could of course just use like Night Lord's blue or something like that. But I just really like this metallic, and of course got to try and be careful going in here, so I'll probably switch brush and do most of the shield off camera, because this crappy little synthetic doesn't really keep a point too well, although it's not doing too bad. So for highlights, I'm going to take this gunmetal blue from Model Colour. I've already got some on the palette here. I'm just going to go around the edges of the shoulder pad. I don't know how well the camera will pick this colour up, and it'll be quite a subtle highlight really, especially once it dries. For me really it's just an excuse to use the colour because I really like it, but you can't see it too well. And if you want on the shield, you can just put some in the middle of these areas. So next up we're going to highlight the silver areas, and I'm going to go back with the Iron Hands steel. And again I'm just going to kind of stipple it on in little areas, just using this brush. Just carefully work around the edges and some of the raised areas. I apologise if the light's been reflecting off the shield, especially, and they're very shiny paints and metallics. I do really like them. And yeah, just going to stipple. And the back's showing quite a good example of that sort of texture we want on the armour. See where some of the crackle paint is, and just where some of the stippled on base coats really just adds that little bit of texture, which will help when we go and add some of the little rust and dirt effects as well, just to make it look like it's quite worn. And having these sort of multi-layers of silver sort of really helps sell that as well. Okay, so gonna add some rust to this armour. I'm gonna keep it very simple. I do have a lot of these to paint. I'm gonna take some Fugan Orange, and then I'm just gonna put little dots of it. I'm certainly focusing around rivets. I don't want this guy to be massively rusty. I just want little spots of it here and there, so just dabbing it on in places. Now you might have to build up a couple of coats with this. Try and put it in places where you think maybe water would settle on the armour, causing it to rust in areas. So certainly around rivets and lower areas. And yeah, also do a few random patches as well. So yeah, I'm going to build that up. My second and third coats will probably be slightly smaller than each one. Then you sort of build that up quite nicely. Nice little effect. I'll just do random spots up here, and we'll obviously do some on the helmet as well, sort of around this sort of rim. So now we can do exactly the same thing with the brass areas, and with Nalak oxide. And I'm just going to dab it very lightly in certain areas. We don't want it to go all this greeny blue colour, but again it's just a case of just adding very small amounts. Less is more in the case of things like this. Just add tiny little bits like so, and that's probably all I'm going to do. Maybe a little bit down here. It really doesn't need to be a lot. So that's pretty much the armour done. So there's a couple of little things left to do. I'm going to take some Night Quester flesh and just go in quite bright with a highlight for all the brown areas. But I'm going to thin it down so it's not going to be too overwhelming. So just add a little bit of water to that. I don't know if this brush is going to do too good, but I'll use this bit as an example. Just carefully run it, a bit too much on there. Just carefully run it along the edge. Yeah, I didn't think this brush would cut it too well. I'll get a better tipped brush. Oh, so many of my brushes don't last 5 minutes. But this one should be fine, so just run that along the top and the bottom of the belt. Like so. So next up, it's some pink horror, just to do some little highlights on here. It's thinned out quite a lot, so you'll see it goes on quite bright, but as it dries, that'll be a lot more subtle. There's a bit too much on the brush there for my liking, but yeah, I'm just going to do little dots of this. We'll try to, still a bit too much on the brush, and then just try and get these little raised points. So quite a lot of these to do, but it'll be worth it once they're done, and I'll tidy up a little error that I had there. So lastly, I'm going to take some Corvus Black, and that's going to be applied to little areas between the armour. And also on the scabbard. It's already black from the undercoat, but I really like Corvus Black. It's a very, very, very dark grey. And I prefer that over Abaddon Black. And then I'm going to take some Eshin Grey, just as a highlight. And again, you can sort of stipple it for a bit more texture. Or if you want, you can just do it the old-fashioned way, but certainly we'll do that for these bits here. Of course, you could go one step further as well with a lighter highlight, but as I'm just doing like rank and file troops, I'm not going to go overboard with highlights and stuff. Of course, you can add more dirt, which I might do. Actually, let's do that next, and then he'll be done. So what I'm going to do, I'll come back in with the catch and flesh. You could use another dark brown colour, there's plenty to choose from. And I'm just going to put some around the bottom of the feet. It's very thinned out, almost like a wash consistency. And again, sort of stippling it on. Of course, you could take it even further, add some extra colours and stuff, but because I'm going for the Hallowed Knights, I just wanted it to still look like the Hallowed Knights. So if I started adding like maybe some greens or other things into the silver, it might take that away from them a bit. But you certainly could if that's what you wanted to do yourself. Or even go harder with rust, but I quite like keeping it quite subtle and still sort of selling that sort of dirty, rusty look. But yeah, I'll get him based up and then he'll be done. And here we have the finished miniature with just a simple little base applied. And yeah, I'm quite happy with how he turned out. He has this sort of gritty, grimdark look to him, which is what I wanted, and still keeping that Hallowed Knights colour scheme intact. And yeah, obviously I could have gone a lot further with this, added some other colour in there, but you know, I just wanted a very limited palette and something that was just quite quick and easy to churn out. And yeah, I've done a few miniatures in this scheme for this army, and I'm really getting into them, doing the head swaps and the shield swaps, and yeah, having this sort of like Crusader knightly theme to them as well as being a bit gritty. Yeah, really getting into that. Have got loads of conversion ideas in mind, and some I've already done. Links to our social media are down in the description, worth checking them out if you're interested in seeing them. Instagram especially. Yeah, I do a lot of these videos for my own reference. I hop between a lot of army projects, so it's nice to come back to these and have a reference so I can remember how I painted them, but also they serve as a guide for you guys as well if you want to do something similar. And I do hope this is useful for some of you, even if it just helps one other person other than myself. It's well worth doing. And yeah, I appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch our videos and leave comments and likes and all sorts. Yeah, and if you want to see me do any other sort of Stormcast schemes or Space Marine schemes or anything in this sort of style, certainly let me know in the comments, and I'll certainly make a video on that. I'll be more than happy to do so. So yeah, all what's left to say is thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again in the next video.